Welcome to What Unites Us. I'm Taylor Justice.
And I'm Esther Farkas, and welcome to our recap episode. What was your favorite episode?
That's hard. I think my favorite, just because of the laughs, is Rob.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Dyrdek.
our laughs.
I think it was because of everybody that we interviewed, he's the one that really has no relation to what we do at Unite Us. Yeah. But, you know, obviously we all have some sort of connection to him, either me growing up with him, you being an avid user of the Solo Pod or Solar Pod or whatever it is.
I do not like this camera placement.
Can we talk about that? Actually, let's keep this rolling. Hold on, let's keep this rolling. One of my other favorite parts of this season is when we're interviewing the one lady, and you just stop it. Stop it. Move the camera. I need to know where I'm looking.
Well, she was up on like 4 different screens. Like, that's okay. Don't worry. Don't look at any of the screens. Just talk to them. It's normal. And look at the camera. I was like, what are you talking about? She's over there. She's over here. Taylor's looking over here. I'm looking to the right. This cannot make sense, even when you edit it out.
Well,
and
obviously,
and did it? No.
This is the recap of season 1, and season 1 being our first time ever doing this. And so you will notice a bunch of different camera angles, places where our eyes are looking. I think we kind of dialed it in towards the end, but it was fun. It was an experience.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. That's, I think, the best way to put it.
Being an introvert, how was it being an extrovert on the podcast?
Awful. Literally awful. No, it was nerve-wracking, but like at the end of the day, you don't really, as an introvert, I think, it's not that you don't like speaking.
Human
you don't,
communication.
you don't, it's not that you don't like social interaction. It's just that it's, a little bit more draining than maybe for an extrovert like you.
One of the interesting things that I think the first couple episodes, and I don't know if it'll show because we have great production folks that can chop up and make us not look like zombies. But when we started to move a little bit away from scripted conversations and engaging, we had a great trainer. You can't see her. She's behind the screen. But she basically sat us down and was like, listen, we got to have an intervention.
Yeah. Because I was reading everything. So we had scripts. I was reading them. It was not good podcasts. And so Jenny did a training. Taylor sat me down, told me I need to improvise more, which goes against my very nature. And so it was tough. And you guys will see whether it worked.
So what was your favorite episode?
Ooh, that's tough. I loved them all, but we laughed really hard with Rob. And so Rob Dyrdek, ridiculousness, Super Jacket, his production company. The guy literally has billions of people watching him do improv on television for an hour with 2 other people. So so when we did the podcast,
54 billion views last year.
Yeah, so when we did the podcast, you might be surprised to hear he was hilarious and he made Taylor and I laugh, and I think is just like a great example of a really like a professional entertainer, like truly a professional entertainer.
Yeah, I think there's pieces that I love about all of them. I think having Georgina on and her story.
That was awesome.
And then, Maurice and his story and where he came from and what he's building.
Yeah, amazing.
Lindsay's story. It's interesting to see how all of these different people navigated different challenges or stereotypes or what have you, but still came out on top, and they were like all very, very positive about the experience.
Yeah, and Rachel's family, and sort of in the wake of the patriarch of that family just having passed away, thinking back through that was so much more powerful.
So what do you think some of the big themes for folks for season 1 would be?
I think everybody talked a lot about the human, the people aspect of not just leadership, but about building enduring companies. And, I think a lot about how Rachel put it when she said, Kohler is 150 years old, I think. And so she said, you used to be able to build a business with just a great product and you could really have a huge competitive moat. And that just it's not true anymore. Mm-hmm. It's all about people, and it's all about you know, sort of having the right team. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think on enduring businesses, 150 years with Kohler, you look at Goodwill, 120 years old. And Goodwill, all I know them for prior to this work was their retail locations.
Yeah.
And retail's not even in their mission statement.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it's in having, being unwavering on helping people reach their full potential. I thought that was very interesting because they do a lot of cool things, but most people know it's like, oh, it's a thrift store.
Yeah.
I've got this party I need to go to and I want to do it for cheap. I'm going to go buy some stuff from Goodwill.
Yeah.
They do so much more behind the scenes.
Yeah. And how about American Heart Association? Same type of thing. Like Goodwill, it's been around for nearly 100 years and doing so much great work. And, you know, do people really think about it as an enduring business? And should they? And I think we made people, hopefully, with this podcast, think about business in a different way, and a brand, an enduring brand, is not just a for-profit company.
Well, I think also the guests had a wide range of personal experiences.
Yeah.
You had those that came from very well-known families, Rachel Kohler, Patrick Kennedy, where they're in the limelight, if you will, and they're trying to chart their own path. And you have others that seemingly came from nothing or created something from nothing, like Rob, who dropped out of high school, started skateboarding at 16, and started to create a business and become an entrepreneur when that wasn't the fad.
Yeah. Well, build a personal brand, right? Before there was the concept of a personal brand. So hopefully, as part of the promos for this, we'll pay Taylor's first attempt at a podcast in 2015. But is this what you thought a podcast would be like? Is this what, when you thought back years ago and what you wanted?
Well, I was ahead of my time. For those that don't know, I tried to start a podcast. I think it was 2018.
Oh, 18, sorry.
And Sabina, who's our VP of marketing at Unite Us, just laughed at me. Said, it's probably not a good idea. And she's got video of it. But now, I think, I don't know.
No, I came around. She laughed at us again. That's that. And then I was like, no, this is serious. We're going to do this. Please help. And then I said it like 10 more times. And then I think she was like, okay, I think they're serious. And then we assembled a guest list, and then I think she was like, oh, they're really serious. And then I think she's like, okay, this could really be something that that we could all do together. And it's been great for me. It's way, like you said, out of my comfort zone. And so a great learning experience for me. And it's a skill, like hosting these and speaking publicly and interviewing folks. It's a skill. And, you know, I hope we get better at it. I hope you guys are patient as we get better at it.
Yeah. And there's obviously a lot of work that goes involved that you and I thankfully don't have to do.
No.
So you can't see the folks behind the camera that make it all happen. But it is very hard, I think, to one, be relatable, but then also try to come off the cuff with questions and hopefully people will get something out of it or learn something about individuals. I think we set out to talk about enduring businesses, and a lot of it kind of transformed into the people that run those enduring businesses and their stories and their journeys. Yeah. So I think we're still figuring it out. Yeah. A lot of ups and downs, but would love to hear from folks what we should do better.
Yes. We
more
need
Esther,
feedback.
less Esther.
Not less. And we had some virtual guests and some in-person guests. And so, you know, did you think there was
I like in-person way better.
Yeah. No, I do too. I think.
Although our favorite podcast was virtual.
Yeah, but what if it had been in person? We would have been rolling on the floor laughing instead of just leaning back on the couch laughing. I think the in-person gives it that more personal feeling that you really are just sitting in a room having a conversation together, and I think you can kind of feel that in some of those. But
what would you do differently?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would practice more. I like to prepare, so I I think for next season, I'll probably practice. I'll probably do it in front of the camera. I'll probably look at you. You're pretty good at this, so I'll probably.
You think so?
Yeah, I think you're good at it.
So my little brother does a podcast.
Yeah.
And he's done it.
Very different from this podcast. Although
completely different.
4.5 million followers on TikTok, so not a joke.
A little bit more than that now, but he's doing.
Really?
He's doing all right.
Nearly 5 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he has a podcast called Dropouts.
Shout out to Zach.
And then one day he's like, "Hey, do you have time to chat?" And I'm like, "No, sorry, about to do our podcast." He's like, "What?" He's like, "I've had this for years. We're doing pretty well, and you asked me for zero advice." I was like, "I just wanted you to see it."
Well,
and then give me the
it's a
advice.
different demo. Zach's demos a little bit.
Yeah, shout out Dropouts. Check it out, Zach
Yeah.
Justice. But yeah, he was pretty upset.
Well, but we may still go on Zach's podcast. You can vote on that. That's a good poll. Should we go on Zach's podcast?
They're like, "Please, we want to hear someone else.
Yeah.
We want to see what a real interviewer can do."
Yeah.
What else did you learn?
I mean, I learned everybody has a story. So even people that are super inspirational leaders and you know their public stories and those public stories are incredible, often their private stories are even more incredible. So I think for me, continuing to talk to folks and getting their story out is what motivates and inspires me to keep doing this.
Well, that's a question. So outside of, obviously, I think our favorite moment of getting our genius business idea shot down, completely shot down, what was your next favorite moment?
I loved hearing, and this is we just wrapped it, but Maurice Jones talking about growing up in rural Virginia on a tobacco farm with his grandparents. It's incredible, and how humble he was about it. It's we tried to prod him a little bit, and he's so humble about his brilliance, his hard work, his tenacity, and just a great story of coming from, of taking the opportunities that he had and truly doing inspirational things with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the themes that I saw were people overcoming stereotypes.
Yeah.
And so with Sam Allen, the stereotype of he's been removed from the military for 30 some odd years, and everyone's just like, "Oh, here comes the Marine."
Yeah.
He's like, "What?"
Yeah, he's a leader. He's a leader at Salesforce, and walks into a room instead of here's one of the key leaders at Tableau. Here's the military guy, and that's incredible.
Yeah, and then Georgina with her country accent, hilarious.
Yeah,
that story was pretty funny. Where she was, what was the line? It was just like something around like, "I'm country," or I was like, "I was super country." When she was going through the interview
she
process
laughs
for Duke.
about it, but of course it's just she laughs about these things that she endured, honestly, that were hard, and I think for anybody else would have been so hard, and she's so positive about it, and everybody, like all of our guests, look like a theme is definitely folks went through a lot of hard things to be where they are, and their incredible positivity around it is probably one of the most inspiring things about it.
Well, they also have they all have like a drive about them.
Yeah.
But they channel that drive in a few different ways. Like Maurice, he said his drive was, and Georgina kind of mentioned this too. It's just like, what do I have to complain about?
Yeah.
Like my family is going through or went through was it the early 1900s where lynching was still legal in Virginia.
Yeah.
Grandfather, 6 years of education. Grandmother only had a high school education.
Yeah.
And he's just like, what do I have to complain about? And Georgina with her family were working multiple jobs, or her mom working in hospice. She's like, what excuse do I have?
You know what that reminds me? You know what I was surprised by is how much you had in common with all of our guests that we didn't even know about.
Like?
Rob.
Growing up in the same area?
Growing up in the same area, different states, the same area. You and Maurice both growing up on a tobacco farm.
That's right. So two things.
No,
There's two
there is
things
more.
that I had connection.
There were a lot more. Almost every guest had something in common, which is interesting. So.
How was it interviewing your friend?
Yeah, weird. Yeah, and that, both Lindsay and Rachel Kohler, folks that I have personal relationships with, and having them sit.
I mean, Rachel and
and now you now have a relationship with Lindsay because she brought you a very cool shirt. You get to ask your friend a lot of questions that maybe you wouldn't ask in a social setting, but are really cool to learn. So I don't, sit around talking to my friends about their childhoods very often in like a pointed way, like I do in an interview. But I loved hearing about it. I loved asking those questions and having my friend take them seriously because she was on camera and not just like, oh, well, let's go eat something.
So you put her on camera and she's forced to answer the questions.
I was like, tell me about it, and I think talking to a friend, of course, it's a formal setting, but I think people do feel more relaxed and hopefully are able to tell their story, a little bit better. What was hard for you?
What was hard for me?
Yeah.
In what sense?
Like, was anything challenging?
No, this was easy. One of the challenges I had was we were coached up on not letting folks go into like super long monologues.
Yeah.
And I don't want to seem rude, but
Yeah.
like they're talking about
important things to them.
very important things
Yeah.
to them. And you're just like, oh wait, let me get this joke in real quick, or let me pause you there and maybe take it a different direction, and then you realize how quick 30 to 40 minutes is. Because even with Maurice, we could have talked for days with him.
Yeah.
Because I think he's a really good storyteller.
He is, yeah.
And he explains things in enough detail where it's just like, no, I want to know more.
Yeah, that's right.
And I thought it's cool, but it's hard to be a host when you also want to be just a fan and listen.
Yeah. No, sometimes you do get lost just listening. You're like, oh, time to ask a question.
Except for the first two episodes where we just like deer in headlights staring at random things on the wall, or like, what do we do now? We got better.
Yeah, I mean, we needed some practice, and I think when we look back at this season, hopefully on season 472 or whatever we end up doing.
472?
Yeah, we're going to live to be very old.
I gotcha. Well, Rob wants to live to 112, so why can't we live to 407?
He will. He's done everything he set out to do. Okay, do you want to talk about what I want behind us?
No, I think they should come to season 2 to find out. There's going to be there's a blank space here. We did it all on purpose. If people watch and are engaged and we decide to continue to do this. What's our target? Is it 1,000 views? Then I get it? Is that what we want? All right, let's say 1,000. We get 1,000 listens on at least 2 episodes. Then I get what I want behind us. Which will... You have to wait for season 2 to find out what it is. Yeah. So with that, this was fun. It was an experience. I'm hoping people take something away from this or enjoy the conversations. Again, we love feedback, so let us know how you feel, what you liked, what you hated, who's your favorite host, things like that. We're here for it, and so appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you.